In 1953, the Christchurch Movie Club produced a silent monochrome film of the historic London to Christchurch air race. They organised other filmmakers to cover the events at many points along the route. After a brief public showing, it was hoped to produce a saleable sound film, but resources were limited and sponsorship was not available. Through a series of unfortunate events, the club lost control of the film and its whereabouts was unknown for over 30 years. It was recovered after a determined search by Rosemary Kent. Ian Fisher did some restoration work. This new re-edited video release was made possible by the invaluable help of the late Bill Kerr, a Royal Australian Air Force navigator, who identified all of the original film material. I am Arnold Stanbury, patron of the former Movie Club and current patron of the Christchurch Video Camera Club.
It is Thursday, the 8th of October 1953. After 5 years of planning, the big day has arrived. Almost exactly 50 years after Orville and Wilbur Wright made their first powered flight, we are about to see the start of a spectacular air race reaching halfway around the world. Starting here in London, it is expected to finish in less than 24 hours in Christchurch, New Zealand. The BBC will broadcast the start of the race worldwide, and there will be local television coverage of the event. Until 2 months ago, 19 entrants were expected to be in the race, but many have now withdrawn. Today's news leaves just 8 aircraft to compete. There are 2 sections in the race, the Transport Handicap section and the Speed section. KLM Royal Dutch Airlines have entered this Douglas DC-6A Liftmaster with Captain Cooper in command. The 3 aircraft in this section are numbered from 21 in the order in which they will take off. The Royal New Zealand Air Force Handley Page Hastings C3 is race number 22 under the command of Wing Commander Watson. British European Airways entered this Vickers Armstrong Viscount 700 under Captain Bailey, race number 23. There are 5 English electric Canberras entered in the Speed section, 3 by the Royal Air Force, a PR7 and 2 PR3s, and 2 Type B20 by the Royal Australian Air Force. The Canberras are numbered from 1 to 5 in the order in which they will take off. It is about 2 hours to start time. The Viscount crew arrive with Captain Bailey in command. A former Governor-General of Australia, the Duke of Gloucester, accompanied by the Secretary-General of the Royal Aero Club, Colonel Rupert Preston, is introduced to the crew members of all the participating aircraft. The KLM crew. The crew of the Hastings. The Duke talks to Wing Commander Cumming. The first plane is due to leave at 4:15, and that will be the KLM carrying a full load of 64 passengers, mainly Dutch women migrating to New Zealand. The remaining aircraft will leave at 5-minute intervals. While the KLM taxis out, the Hastings is starting up. Lord Freyberg, a former Governor-General of New Zealand, is just in time to wave goodbye. Here is the first to take off, race number 21, the KLM DC-6. Captain Cooper has a full complement of passengers. The second to leave is the RNZAF Hastings. Wing Commander Watson has a crew of 14 and is carrying stores for the New Zealand Air Force. The Vickers Viscount is the last to leave in the transport handicap section. Most of the passenger seating in the Viscount has been replaced with long-range fuel tanks to minimise the number of refuelling stops. Even with these, the Viscount faces a tough challenge because of the handicapping formula. Accurate navigation is now vital, and the pre-race training critically important. Meanwhile in Christchurch, the weather is dull and miserable, and it doesn't look very promising for tomorrow morning when the first plane should arrive. Ground staff at Harewood Airport have been boosted with Australian aircraft controllers and communication personnel from the RNZAF base at Wigram. As well as keeping in contact with the aircraft in the race, the controllers will be monitoring the position of the ESC rescue ships and aircraft in both the Indian Ocean and the Tasman Sea. The Viscount has arrived in Athens for her first refuelling stop. She is soon off to the next leg to Bahrain. The faster Canberras have leapt ahead, and Commander Hodges is on his way to Negombo in Ceylon. It is the morning of the 9th, London time, and the RNZAF Hastings is refuelling at Shaiba at the head of the Persian Gulf. The next stop will be Masira, a small island off the coast of Arabia. At Cocos Island, the RAF refuelling team is ready for its first Canberra. The first to arrive, however, is number 4, an RAAF plane flown by Wing Commander Cumming. And it looks like serious trouble. Here comes number 5, the other Australian entrant, under command of Squadron Leader Raw. They were the last to leave London. The starter cartridge is fitted, and the pilots change over, and they are off to Woomera after only 7 minutes on the ground. Back on board the Hastings, we are coming into land at Masira for refuelling, and will then head out over the ocean to Negombo in Ceylon. The weather back in Christchurch has closed in. It was in anticipation of this that new sophisticated ground approach radar was installed at Harewood by the Royal Australian Air Force. Our camera finds it difficult to keep up with the fast-flying Canberras. We are at Negombo with the BEA Viscount. After refuelling, their next stop will be Cocos Island. Time in refuelling must be kept to a minimum because this is counted in the race time, and the pre-race training is again vital. Now the traffic in Christchurch is heading for the airport. A cold, wet morning is not going to stop the spectators looking for the best vantage point. The progress of the race is closely followed in the control tower, and the crowd is given the latest information over the sound system. The weather is so bad that no aircraft could hope to land here without the aid of the RAAF ground approach radar. We have just heard that the first plane is arriving. There she is. It's the RAF Canberra number 3 with Burton and Gannon. They have made it from London in less than 24 hours. Hume D. Christie, the chairman of the Canterbury International Air Race Council and the driving force behind this memorable event, greets them as they leave the aircraft. That's Burton alongside him, and Gannon on the left. On the way to the terminal building, they are received with a Maori action song, and after official welcome, Monty says a few words about the race. It is just over half an hour since Burton arrived, and Flight Lieutenants Furs and Harper are landing the 2nd RAF Canberra. They left London 5 minutes before Burton. Furs is the first to emerge, followed by his navigator, Flight Lieutenant Harper. The third to land is the RAAF Canberra under Flight Lieutenant Raw with navigator Flight Lieutenant Bill Kerr. It is just 24 hours and 34 minutes since they left London, which makes their time 2 minutes shorter than Furs, so they are in second place. It seems that Noel Davis can't wait to light up a cigarette. Squadron Leader Raw being greeted by some of the spectators. 3 of the 5 Canberras have now landed at Harewood. Back at Ngombo, the RNZAF Hastings is out of the race. Last night she ran into a fierce storm. One engine failed, and only by superb airmanship did Squadron Leader Larry Seagert land the plane safely in complete darkness and monsoon conditions with near-empty fuel tanks. The water and debris thrown up from the runway damaged the flaps and completely disabled the already faulty engine. It is now the afternoon of the 10th, and Wing Commander Hodges and Squadron Leader Curry in their RAF Canberra are about to land. They were delayed at Perth with electrical problems. Christie greets Wing Commander Hodges. And they are joined by Air Marshal Sir Ronald Ivor Chapman and Air Marshal Donald Hardman. And now they are joined by Squadron Leader Curry. We return to Melbourne to see the arrival of the Viscount. It has no passengers or freight, and being the fastest in the handicap section of the race, it has a penalty of 44.5 hours on the KLM DC-6. The Hastings handicap was in between. At Harewood, there is continued interest in all the aircraft on the ground. Many will probably stay until the expected arrival of the Viscount early tonight. It is 9 p.m. and the Viscount is coming into land. They're only 16 hours behind the first Canberra, an exceptional feat for a short-haul civil aircraft. Captain Bailey and his crew are welcomed by Hume Christie. Compared with the military aircraft, this crew travelled in first-class comfort, and they can step out in immaculate uniforms. Now it is nearly 6:30 in the morning of the 11th, and the KLM DC-6 is arriving to a pleasant sunny morning. Captain Cooper has safely brought his 64 passengers and 18 crew all the way to Christchurch. It has become known as the bride's plane because most of the passengers are Dutch women who have married or are about to marry New Zealand men. This arrival is certainly a popular one, and a large group of officials includes the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Sydney Holland. The new arrivals are greeted by Hume Christie. Now, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon of October the 12th, the last of the Canberras has arrived. This is the one that suffered a burst tyre when landing at Cocos Island. First out is the co-pilot, Flying Officer Atkinson. Then Wing Commander Cumming is greeted by Hume Christie. Out of their flying suits, they are welcomed by other aircrew members. All the Canberra crews are being lodged in the officers' mess at the RNZAF base at Wigram. And now we can review the results of the race. Burton and Gannon arrived inside 24 hours. That time is from airport to airport and includes refuelling and any other delays. In the transport section, the handicapping formula gave the KLM DC-6 a massive advantage of 44 hours and 29 minutes, and she is clearly the winner in this section. And now it is the 15th of October, and the presentation of awards will be a fitting climax to the longest air race the world has ever seen. Autograph collectors are having a field day before the official ceremony begins. The principal speakers today will be the Governor-General of New Zealand, Sir Willoughby Norrie, the President of the Air Race Council, Mr. Hume D. Christie, the Minister of Civil Aviation, Mr. T.L. MacDonald, who also represents the Prime Minister and the Government, and the Mayor of Christchurch, Mr. R.M. McFarlane, MP. Sir Willoughby Norrie will present the prizes, and every crew member will receive a medal commemorating the 50th anniversary of powered flight. The winners of the speed section, Flight Lieutenants Burton and Gannon of the RAF, come forward to receive the Harewood Gold Cup and the £10,000 prize money. Captain Cooper and his crew received £10,000 first prize in the transport section. And so we leave with a last look at the outright winners holding the Harewood Cup.